Gambling, with its excitement, has made its way into societies worldwide. From the glittering lights of casinos to the convenience of online platforms, the accessibility of gambling opportunities has evolved in recent years. In fact, the global gambling market was estimated to be worth over $580 billion in 2024, with projections indicating further growth in the years to come. However, alongside this expansion, the shadow of gambling addiction follows. Studies suggest that approximately 2% of adults worldwide experience problems with gambling, with rates of addiction even higher among certain demographic groups and in regions with easier access to gambling activities. These statistics underscore the urgent need for a deeper understanding of the complexities surrounding gambling addiction and the implementation of effective strategies for prevention and intervention. We at CasinoWow decided to explore the world of problem gambling by analysing the problem from every point of view. We talked to gambling addicts, we talked to a psychologist, a casino representative, and we spoke with a recovered gambling addict. Join us as we delve into touching personal stories, seeking insights and solutions, with the desired outcome for everyone: betting on change.
I stayed clean for a few months, and then I collapsed with gambling.
I didn't realize that with time, with everything that was happening, and with this experiment, everything would lead to abuse. It would lead to me more gambling, and even taking things out of my home.
When the problem was getting bigger and I was betting more and more and losing more, somehow I started to hide this because I was ashamed.
I was 11 years old when I started to gamble. I used to play cards.
Addiction is running away, and the question is not, why are you addicted? It's, what hurts you to make you addicted?
Adrenaline is the only thing that makes me keep doing it.
For you, it doesn't matter whether you'll win 50 or 5,000. Is this what you're saying?
It absolutely doesn't matter. For me, adrenaline is higher when losing.
Somehow with the time, I changed somehow from being with the people around me. Then, let's say in 5 or 6 years, I started to bet alone at home.
On the opposite of all other addictions, with gambling, we don't have a substance. We don't have anything that affects us and our physics.
We continuously improve our safeguards to minimise such occurrences, but no system is entirely foolproof, unfortunately.
And this is quite possible, for a person to be happy, to feel satisfied and joyful, to feel that adrenaline and euphoria without something controlling them, but to be the one that has control.
If you can have one thing right now and you're sure that you're going to get it, what would you want it to be?
Well, I would say freedom.
Do you remember when it all started? When was the first time you were introduced to gambling?
I remember, yes, it was early childhood.
Early childhood?
Yes, I was 11 years old when I started to gamble. I used to play cards, svara and poker, on the streets.
And after that, this continued with sports betting, online casinos, brick-and-mortar casinos?
After that, after I wasn't a minor anymore, I started going into casinos. That's when I started playing roulette, then sports betting, and then slots and poker tables. Mostly blackjack. There isn't anything I haven't played.
Hello, I am 35 years old. I am a chef by profession. I'm in the industry since 2008. I am a parent. I have a son, 11 years old, and gambling and drug problems.
So long years I was working on the cruise ships as a waiter and bartender, and I was traveling around the world. So my addiction with gambling started when I was quite younger, let's say 17 or 18 years old. And well, I was curious about all these fancy things, the lights, the casino, the games, and I just wanted to try.
Adrenaline is the only thing that makes me keep doing it. In the beginning, I started with less harmful goals, easy wins. Maybe that's what hooked me in the first place. The first few times I played, I made big amounts of money for the time, which created in me an illusion that I could make money in a very easy way, instead of working and making them the honest way.
When did you realize that this is becoming a problem for you?
When I started doing things that were against the law. And with one word, I became unscrupulous. I was ready to do anything to get my dose of adrenaline.
Searching for new experiences, new friendships, and something to distract me, I tried gambling in a casino, and I won. This made me happy, which was a feeling I was missing for a long time.
The emotion of winning?
Yes, exactly. And how the staff at the casino was treating me. I didn't go with a lot of money, but I won a lot. Some thoughts came to me that I could be doing this from time to time, and that it's something that brings me joy, that it's just a game, and that's how I found comfort for a long time.
Well, I said to myself, I was watching the older, let's say, people, and let's say the boys older than me, and I said to myself, yeah, let's go and try, let's see. And this is how it all started, with a small amounts of money, let's say a couple of euros or 5, 10s or something like that. And in the beginning was just for fun. Well, I somehow wanted to challenge myself to see if I'm lucky or not.
Were you lucky?
Yeah, in the beginning, this is the thing that I got lucky several times. I made some money, and well, that was very, very tricky, because somehow I started to believe that I can make some money from this, from gambling, and that was just the beginning of something bigger.
Gambling took a lot from me in my life. Aside from the material, it took relationships, trust in the family, and in general, in the end, I was alone. All alone. Without anyone by my side, no one trusted me, no one supported me,
And you decided to look for help.
I decided to look for help.
I went to see a psychologist. His feedback was that I needed to treat myself in a center, which I absolutely denied. I still thought of myself as strong enough and successful. I was living in an illusion that there was still time for me until I reached the bottom, that maybe I'll resurface after some time, that it was all just temporary. After the last attempt, 2 or 3 months later, I realized that I was repeating the same pattern, and there was no way I could get a different result.
Let's say in the beginning they knew, but I didn't see any problem. But later on, when the problem was getting bigger and I was betting more and more and losing more, somehow I started to hide this because I was ashamed what's going on. I couldn't accept all losses, and I was getting more and more, let's say, on the side. I was hiding myself.
Is this when you realized that you maybe have a problem with gambling?
Yes, somehow, and somewhere, let's say 6-7 years after I started, some kind of light in my head started to blink. Then something's going on, and I was realizing, yes, yes, I see the problem, but that was the time that I couldn't stop anymore, because the feeling was so strong that that was the beginning of addiction.
How it all started. For me, it all started, if I can say, as a joke. Like something interesting, something to entertain me. something to keep me busy. I really like football, and I started to watch a lot of games. I had a lot of friends who were betting on those games, and I thought I could try with some money just to see what happens.
To make it more exciting when you watch the games?
Yes, I follow the whole game, I follow every minute. I am even more excited about the lineups, who's playing, is there a bigger chance for a win, is there not? And I wasn't even thinking about the win that much because I was betting 5 or 10, and I'd win 15 or 12. But the excitement of what I was thinking could happens, was the biggest rush for me. For me, it's a poly-addiction. I was addicted to drugs, not only gambling. It all started when I was 14.
You started betting on games at 14, or you mean the drug addiction?
I was betting on games at 14. I was also smoking weed. After school, we all went to see what were the games for the next day, and what would happen. All our conversations were about who bet on what the current championship is, and so on. I didn't realize that with time, with everything that was happening, and with this experiment, everything would lead to abuse. It would lead to me more gambling and even taking things out of my home, taking money from others, getting bank loans, having nothing all the time, and getting to the point where I realized I needed help. It wasn't hard for me to realize that because my whole life was collapsing one thing at a time. My friends were avoiding me. I had no one to go out with. And I was more alone. When I didn't have money, I was facing the dilemma of whether I should ask for money from someone, if I should try and make 10 into 100, or if I should just go and take drugs with those 10. I realized it all. The hard part was accepting it. Accepting that I need some kind of change, and I needed to go to therapy in a center where I can be isolated. This happened, but more so because of my mother's motivation, and not my motivation. It was too hard for me to make that first step. There are people who gamble, and they don't become addicts.
As there are people who drink but don't become drunks.
Exactly. Not every person is an addict, but every addict is a person. Going to therapy, looking at myself, being with people around me, and realizing I am not in any way different from them are what helped me. Especially coming here in this center. Oh, there are memories coming back to me now. Here, where we are at the moment, it was really hard for me in the beginning, although it was familiar to me, as I've been to other centers before. What impressed me here is the motivation and the effort from everyone else here for me to be okay. Just to be okay, without any ulterior motives, without any benefit to them or manipulation. This is what touched me and what actually made me stay here and pass my experience after that. The moment that was the hardest for me was when I had nothing. I had lost everything. I lost even my mother's trust. She wanted to have a restraining order to stop me from going home. She was afraid I could take more things out of our home. Because I used to do that. I was taking away silverware, appliances. Ugly story. Here, I found understanding and family. There wasn't any judging like my mother used to judge me. You ruined everything. You messed up everything. I told you so many times to be careful. At the beginning of my treatment, that's exactly what I was thinking. How could I be here? This is not for me. I am not that bad. Before, when I heard therapy center, I imagined people in beds, on systems, heroin addictions, and I thought, that's not for me. I am not like them. But then I found out that addiction is a way of thinking, a way of acting and behaving, lying, not being interested in other people, thinking only about myself and everything to be around that craving for use. Before, I used only to want to take from life, to take satisfaction, to take memories, feelings, joy.
You say you wanted to take and take and take, and now you are actually giving. Tell us, what is it exactly that you do now?
Now, I work as a consultant with personal experience in this center. I constantly take new courses and qualifications for working with people with addictions. I work with a group of people using my personal experience and therapeutic knowledge. There's something important I want to say when passing on a message. That message is what helped me, and it's without the help of others, I can't do it. What was given to me can continue to be carried only if I pass it on to others. That's what I believe. Although it may sound paradoxical, I am giving it and also carrying it. But that's part of the dedication of the process. Whoever is on the other end of receiving it may be grateful to me. But what I want is for him or her to pass it on to another person who needs it.
What's the message you want to tell addicts?
I can, but I can't alone.
Psychology is an exact science. We cannot say to anyone that they're an addict just like that. There are specific criteria. These criteria are specific to Europe and specific to the USA. In fact, these are the manuals, DSM and MKB. We always start with them. As a psychologist myself, I cannot say that a person is a gambling addict and give the diagnosis. This is done by a psychiatrist. And yes, there is a difference. I cannot say that a person who enters a casino for the first time is a gambling addict or first time using alcohol is alcohol addicted. But there are specifics. On the opposite of all other addictions, with gambling, we don't have a substance. We don't have anything that affects us and our physics. But after all, every addiction has its biological causes, physiological causes, mental causes, and emotional causes. And one of our biggest criteria is lacking control. When I don't have control over whether I'm gambling or not, and by that I distinguish playing from home and using online casinos or going to a brick-and-mortar casino, because the two things are very different. But the thing in common is that I lack control. I prioritize gambling, even when I see it doesn't have a good influence on me and my relations, on my work. I entered a casino. 12 hours had passed, and I had missed my work process. This is a very serious indicator. Another particular thing is chasing losses. When I lose, speaking as the thought process of an addict, when I lose money, tomorrow I'll go again and try to win it all back. And this is all in the cognitive processes because in our line of work with addiction, we always aim to change the cognitions. Something very typical for people with an addiction is actually the way they think. And that's how we distinguish all diagnoses. They all have specifics. And let's say for gambling addicts, they believe gambling will help them. It will calm them down. It will make them cooler, stronger, with a lot of money. And that's the beginning and the first signal that a person can get trapped. There is a gambling addiction that's episodic, which means it comes and goes from time to time, but there is also a stable gambling addiction. We cannot say a person is an addict because they lost 100,000 or 200,000. It's not about the amount of money. It's actually about the pursuit and the lack of control and all the bad outcomes that follow. But after all, this is something that we examine for a year with a person. If you enter a casino twice, it doesn't make you an addict or that you lack control. Gambling is a disease, but people often underestimate it and think, well, no, I actually have control. I can take care of this. And that's how things get more and more serious, which leads to mild, moderate and severe degrees of addiction.
Now I remember about one of the gambling addicts that we spoke to. He said he feels stronger emotions and euphoria when he loses. How can we explain this?
Of course, this is because when you are already an addict, the control of addiction is more significant than you, and for them, it is just like that. More dopamine is released when they lose. This is actually what makes it all spin. That's the rush. Now, I lost, and I have the chance of winning again. I will rely on something else to win again. And losing is actually a big part of this whole process, although, on a rational level, people think, I want to win. Yes, when they win, the euphoria is quite big, but that's more in the beginning. When things get deeply serious, that's the instrument of addiction. The loss is the instrument of addiction, because it means the loss will haunt you. Just like the catch me if you can principle. The win is running away from me, so I will run after it. And that chase brings me dopamine, adrenaline, extra rush. There is a process. This process is first. The person denies. I don't have a problem. I can get better. I can do it alone. Nothing is wrong with me. Others gamble too. And we, as psychologists, work with exactly those mindsets. A person always knows. Deep inside, they feel and know that there is a problem. But that self-deception is part of the changes on a cognitive level. And of course, they won't say, yes, I am an addict, because the next step is actually very scary.
At PlayOjo, which is part of the Skill on Net network, we have a comprehensive setup to manage our safer gambling program. We have an extensive team of safer gambling supervisors and agents that work within the compliance department. We have a sophisticated safer gambling software in the form of Mentor, which is a state-of-the-art machine learning tool which tracks player data, detects risk patterns, changes in behaviour and flags signs of problem gambling. And of course we have the player tools like deposit limits, reality checks, timeouts, which our players can use to control their play. PlayOjo undertakes various interactions when there's risk of harm to a player. These actions aim to prevent or minimise harm and are tailored to the severity of the identified risk, avoiding a one-size-fits-all approach. Actions range from early, generic measures to very strong interventions based on the potential harm. In some cases, immediate automated strong actions may be necessary due to the severity of the risk, regardless of the relationship stage. For less severe risk indicators, actions follow an escalating pattern. This gradual approach allows players to understand and reflect on the risks, potentially leading to safer gambling practices and reduced activity. So at one end of the spectrum you have emails, affordability checks, pop-up messages, and then as the potential risk increases, we engage with the players directly with one-to-one live chats, enforcement of spend limits, and ultimately temporary or permanent account restrictions. At PlayOjo, our brand pillars are safe, fun, fair and easy. These aren't just words in our brand guidelines, these are fundamental principles that guide everything that we do, from our product through to our promotions and advertising. Of these pillars, player safety and well-being is our #1 priority. And in addition to the comprehensive resource and technology that we put behind it, we have multiple tools that can help the player control their play. These include deposit limits, setting time checks, play history, cooling off periods. We also have a unique feature called SafeMates, which is a player's personal summary of their playing behaviour and gives them their own risk score based on their playing behaviour. We recently introduced a new game category on PlayOjo called Light Play. This is a dedicated games section which features games with a £2 maximum stake and where games start from as little as 5p. This is a feature that ensures players get more play for their budgets and a feature we've launched well in advance of the mandatory stake limits that will be coming in across the industry later this year. Finally, we work very closely with the Betting and Gaming Council in shaping and feeding back on their policies and guidelines, and also ensuring that all our media advertising goes over and above the voluntary guidelines of 20% being safer gambling focused.
What is the way out? There is a way out of every situation. We all have problems and every problem has a solution. What we all have to think about is, what is this giving me? Because there are many addictions. We can get addicted to sugar, caffeine, and so on. Well, there is something I like about it. And we all just need to be self-conscious. What is it that I like? What is it that I don't like as much? And what is the price I am willing to pay for it? Because the intangible price might be higher for me than what I would actually get.
Let's end this all with, if you could say anything to yourself 16 years ago before it all happened, what would you say?
I would tell myself to be extremely careful with what I'm about to do, to be self-critical, and mostly to be more selfish, to put myself before the others when it comes to my health and my future.
4 words about my past?
Or one, if it's easier for you.
No, well, about my past. I would say I hate this place.
These are 4 words.
Yeah.
About the present?
About the present, I love my life. If I have to say something about my future, I would like to say it to the people who understood and supported me. I would say, thank you for being there for me.
How do you see your life after addiction?
If I can use one word to describe it, it would be colorful. Filled with happiness, joy, family, friends. Someday a marriage and kids.
If you can have one thing right now and you're sure that you're gonna get it, what would you want it to be?
Well, I would say freedom. Freedom is this what I want, and this is what I'm fighting for this. To be free from addictions.
Just be brave. This is what makes us all strong. We cannot expect to be able to deal with something alone. We all need someone to be there for us. Not even a specialist, but just a group of people. And this is quite possible for a person to be happy, to feel satisfied and joyful, to feel that adrenaline and euphoria without something controlling them, but to be the one that has control. It is possible. We've seen it. There are a lot of people who manage to do it, and they are not that different from anyone else. So, I personally believe anyone with addiction can take the right step.
Gambling is exciting, and it doesn't have to be a problem. With the right mindset and support, it can remain a fun and responsible activity. Awareness and support are key. If you or someone you know is struggling, resources and help are available. Together, we can ensure that gambling remains an enjoyable pastime and not a harmful addiction. Thank you for joining us at CasinoWow on this enlightening exploration of responsible gambling. Let's continue to foster a safer, more responsible gambling environment for all. Play responsibly, stay safe,